Today's topic is something very dear to my heart, and that is playing loud. Clarinet isn't really known as being a loud, boisterous instrument, but I assure you there is a way to get that in-your-face attitude. So our loud is never going to be as loud as a trumpet loud or a trombone loud, but they'll reach a point in this instrument where it's going to just sound grumpy. Like, that is what loud essentially means. So you can play soft and all quiet, but as soon as you start ramping up their volume, the quality of the sound changes, and it's that quality that creates the perception of loud. So as an audience member, once you start hearing that effort, that is what equals loud. To demonstrate loud on this thing, let's just start off with a nice quiet note. I'll crescendo it to play a nice kind of grumpy, grindy sounding C, and then decrescendo again. Okay, so it reached a point where it just sounded a bit rough, a bit raw, because that is going to give it its loud quality. Now, the question is, how did I do that? You must remember that this is a very, very physical instrument. It requires effort to blow. The clarinet, the reed, the mouthpiece, all of that is generating resistance, as too does your embouchure. Your embouchure has to be reasonably strong in order to kind of contain all those high frequencies and therefore create a kind of a nice warm tone. Again, it's offering resistance because you have slight pressure on everything and it's just a little bit harder to blow. Now, that resistance is fought against by this, the stomach muscles. Okay, some people like to say diaphragm, I like to say core or your gut muscles, and you're kind of going like a perpetual cough. So imagine coughing. Okay, you use this part of the body to hurl out high velocity air and lots of air. So a perpetual cough, it's like a cough but continuous. Imagine that happening like so. Now the trick is you have to maintain that cough. So we're hurling air through the instrument at a huge rate of knots. There are a few things that might go wrong. So clarinetists, sometimes we're a little bit too tight on the embouchure. We squeeze too hard and the reed seizes up. We're basically squishing the reed so that the gap between the reed and the mouthpiece shrinks. So you get that strangled sound. Okay, no good. If you do that, you're not going to really be able to push through that. If your reed is too soft, say you're a beginner and or maybe even an adult student trying to play some soft reeds and you've now progressed a bit further along, it's very easy to overblow very soft reeds. And when I say soft reeds, I mean like your Rico Royale 1.5s, maybe even 2. If you try and blow those really hard, long story short, your reed will just seize. It won't vibrate anymore. It won't generate sound. So you have to do a harder reed to give you better resistance. There is a play against large tip openings and soft reeds. So the larger the tip opening, you can get away with soft reeds. If you've got a very, very narrow tip opening, as someone said at university, you can put in a plank of wood, and that's probably going to work. So you got to find that nice balance. Okay, so lastly, embouchure, you want to maintain it obviously, because if you start widening it out, it's going to sound really flat, and all the high frequencies start coming back. So you got to kind of try to maintain the embouchure. You're going to hurl that air through. You're going to try and contain the tuning, and then back off to get your nice phrase fade out. I'll demonstrate loud with a couple of pieces. First of all, I'm going to do Golden Wedding. Golden Wedding was played by Woody Herman. Well, that's the most famous recording of it. The version I have here is a piano accompanied piece for solo clarinet, so no ensemble here. So what we have is kind of like a kind of straight jazz, but I want to show that clarinet is not a delicate instrument. It has raucous. It can really rip. keeps on going higher and higher and higher if you're familiar with this piece. But what I wanted to get at is, sure, I'm just like laying into it, but you notice how where I come off again. So I'm going ba-doo-doo-ah, da-doo-doo-ah. I'm hurling air through that instrument. I'm using airspeed to bust out that note, and therefore I can create this contrast. So there is quiet in there. I am not just playing brick notes. I am hurling note in to create attitude to those notes. And then you can get a nice in-your-face clarinet sound. Classical music requires loud too, because you have phrasing, the shape has to go up, has to come down again. If the piece is piano, you can't just play piano the whole time. It is boring. You got to have phrase shape. So therefore, how do we make shape? We start soft, we bring the volume higher, and then we come back down again. So if we took a rositude, for example, I've got number 15 here, we have a nice 3-4, it's only adagio, nice and slow. But I'm going to shape these phrases, but the same principle applies. I need to hurl air through this instrument. Now, maybe I didn't play exactly the dynamics here, but you get the idea. We are soaring through phrases. And then we come back down again. But how did I get loud? I put the effort in. I'm pushing. I'm doing that perpetual cough. I'm pushing through that instrument. You see an accent? Remember, those are like miniature diminuendos. We basically have a cough in isolation. So da 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 dum. I am pushing air through that instrument. And what's important in all phrases, of course, is to make sure you have a nice taper at the end. So I hope that helps. There's lots of really good repertoire out there for really letting the clarinet sing, whether it be some old school jazz from like your Benny Goodman, Woody Herman, or maybe something from New Orleans, or maybe we go Malcolm Arnold, which is a little bit more classical, or maybe even you find some klezmer music. These are the really outside the box, let it rip type clarinet music. Now remember, clarinet is an incredibly physical instrument. You get out what you put in. Sure, you may feel like you're putting in lots of effort, but really twice as much effort isn't going to equal twice as loud. You really just have to sustain it. It's like any kind of physical activity, just like sport. It requires a bit of fitness, but I'm sure once you realize what you're required to do to generate the sound, it'll be fine.